People of Yarmouth County video series, made possible through the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage's Forward Fund, focuses on our region of Yarmouth County and some of the communities and cultural identities that encompass it. We wanted to showcase one of the most important parts of our community, our people. The stories told in our 6-part video series are excerpts from longer interviews conducted by the Yarmouth County Museum and Archive staff. They are stories of both the past and the present. They are memories told by the people of Yarmouth County. Some of the stories are funny, some are sad, and some will make you think. On behalf of the Yarmouth County Museum and Archives, we'd like to say a very special thank you to all the participants who took part in this project. We loved hearing your stories.
Well, my name is Robert David Earl. I've been in Yarmouth all my life. That's 71 years at this point. And what was the other part of the...
how you identify culturally.
I'm not, I'm English. I have French ancestry, but at my grandmother's level, they closed the door. And for years, we had Yarmouth was basically an English town until became officially bilingual. And then friends I've known for years, I'd meet and they'd be speaking French. When did you become a Frenchman? Well, I've been all my life, but anyway. I've been all my life in Brooklyn. I started in Yarmouth. I started out on Pleasant Street, just north of the fire hall. And if you remember the famous Greg DeHoo of Yarmouth, his dad bought the house that I grew up in till I was 10 years old, and that's where Greg grew up. And we moved out to Brooklyn when I was 10 years old, and I'm still living in Brooklyn. Bought a piece of land just across the road from the land at the farm that my father bought when we moved out there. Built a house, raised a family, and I'm still there and planning to stay. I've worked most of my life, well, a good part of my life, 27 years I'll say for Dominion Textile, but it was actually Cosmos Imperial Mills, Yarmouth Industrial Fabrics, and Dominion Textiles. I never went anywhere. The company just kept changing. And then in 1991, they closed their doors, and that fall, I started working for Acadian Sea Plants. And I worked for them for a few months shy of 25 years, and then I decided when I was a few months shy of 70, it was probably time to retire. So that's where I've been. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of things. I'm involved in the Knights of Columbus, have been for a few years. They're just down the road here. I'm part of the Knights of Columbus choir. I've been involved in my church quite a bit, Curcio movement and Eucharistic minister, and a number of other things. And as I mentioned to you when I was coming in, my first experience with the church next door, what I always just called it the Stone Church, was when I would say I was probably about 4 years old. A friend of mine lived across the street from me on Pleasant Street there, was a member. His family belonged to this church, and they had a preschool, we'd call it today. I don't know what the kindergarten, maybe they called it then, I'm not sure. And he invited me to come with him, and I did. And that was my first interdenominational experience, but for me it went well. And like I say, that's where I learned to sing "Jesus Loves Me, This I Know." So that pretty much covers it. I've got two sons, Aaron and Glenn. They're both in their 40s, and they're doing well. Well, I've been around a little bit. I went to school in Ontario for a while, and I with church activities, I've been in Ottawa, I've been in Alberta, I've been with company, I've been overseas, Belgium, particularly in Ypres. I've seen a lot of places, and I always came back to Yarmouth, and I always said I could actually have lived in any one of those spots, but if I went there, I'd stay there. I don't like pulling up roots and reestablishing, and Yarmouth it's been good to me, so I've got no reason to run. I tell you, it's just, is that all? Is that all? We're just 150 years old. I'm been around almost half of that time, and it's amazing because some of the stories I've just been telling you about the dirt roads and where we started and all this. Canada was just not connected. It was just there's the Pacific, there's the Atlantic, and we're north of the States, and everything in between, that's Canada. But when you look at it, you can hop on a plane, and in a few hours you can go from one coast to the other. And Canada is it's a different country. I think Canada is unified. I think Canada is a peacemaker rather than a war maker. And I think that's kind of my impression of Canada. I'm proud to be a Canadian. I fly a Canadian flag at my property, and every morning and every night I look out there and I think, that's Canada. That's our flag. And not that I had anything against the Union Jack, but that was a flag that we came from another country, and we were part of it. This identifies us as uniquely Canadians. It is a very unique flag, but that's kind of what I think of Canada. Yarmouth is going to continue to grow. It may not grow by leaps and bounds and fantastic rates, but it's not destined to become a ghost town by any means, I don't think.
My name is Tootsie Eamon, and I live in Yarmouth South. I have been there for 55 years. Prior to that, I lived in Centertown on Pleasant Street, and I'm married to Fred Eamon, and we have 6 children. And now, to fill the empty nest syndrome after they were educated, I moved on to taking up art, and now I'm an artist. I've been painting for 29 years.
Oh. All right.
Well, the family, I was married in 1960, and my husband had the Fred Eamon grocery store in Yarmouth South. We started in 1937, and we took it over in 1970 for 26 years. It is situated because now my oldest son has it, so it's been brought down 3 generations, and it's a meat store, grocery store, which was one of the largest grocery stores in Yarmouth, because at the time when we started, there was a lot of ships, and Lawrence Sweeney Fisheries, the Cosmo Imperial Mills, different, a lot of large companies, and there was no box stores, so we were very busy. And we supplied schools, restaurants, and at the time the downtown Yarmouth had like about 7 restaurants and the tin mill, so the tin mine. So basically what's happened is a lot of these industries have gone, but our business still there, doing well. Well, I love Yarmouth. Everything is here, what you need. The people are friendly. The opportunities to raise a family was fantastic. Like I lived on Main Street, and we had 6 children. Well, they were all in sports. There was a ball field, the YMCA, in walking distance, and they could go, even if they wanted to walk a little further, up to Lake Malo to go swimming, and everything. Yarmouth has everything.
Good, yeah.
Oh, Canada, I'm glad that they are celebrating the 150th year. Canada's beautiful, but mostly I like the freedom of Canada. We can do what we want, say what we want, go where we want, and to me, it's just wonderful. Yeah, and I love the nature of Canada, the beauty. The trails that they are starting to have for people to walk on. But I don't like to see the train station disappear. We used to have 2 train stations in Yarmouth. That's another thing that I miss. The DAR and I think it was CPR. Now it's Tim Hortons. We used to have a trolley that used to go from Milton down to Sand Beach, and I remember hiding in the back seat because back then you didn't have cars, 2 cars in the family, so if you can get anywhere and have a ride, you enjoyed it. So the man that was driver, he'd say, okay, go sit in the back seat, and we'd have to pay a nickel, and we'd go all afternoon going back and forth, but he knew who we were. He was a relative, in fact, and so those little things are small, but they meant a lot to us as children growing up. And there were a lot of little grocery stores, little restaurants. No, definitely not. I just thought it was just a hobby, and I started painting for the children. And a gentleman from Bass River, he had a furniture store, and he came in the house because I had a Bass River chair, and he delivered it, and he saw my paintings, and he said, I want your paintings in my business. And that was at Milton, a furniture store at the time. And I said, no, they're not good enough. And he said, well, I would love to display them. And so I did. I said, okay, I'm going to prove something. And they started selling. And then people started coming to me to do commission work, and I haven't stopped. So that's how, you never know, unless you start something and work hard at it, what happens.
I am Rosalie Indig, my husband Victor Indig. We had Midtown Hotel on Parade Street for 32 years and sold it 10 years ago. We have 2 boys, Brian and Stephen. We are fabulous grandparents to 2 little girls and a boy They all live in Toronto, and we are very sad about that. But we love it here, and time will tell if we relocate there. It's been great. I am a Yarmouthian, a proud Yarmouthian. And so was my dad. My mother was from Montreal. I have 2 brothers who still live in Yarmouth and also love it. And it's great. We moved from Montreal in 1977 to buy what was then called Fairmont Towers. We changed the name to Midtown Motel. And we renovated it for a year, changed the entire, I guess you could say, scene of the place. Decor, the scene of the place. We worked very, very hard. And with our kids and neighbors, and people were so nice to us. We were young. I was 26, Victor was 30. Kids were maybe
3.5 or 1.5.
Right. And it was an adjustment, especially an adjustment for me, because I thought I was going to come home and just pick up where I left off. Well, nobody cared about us, and we had to start all over. May as well have been in China. But anyway, we got involved, and we made wonderful friends, lifetime friends here. We worked very, very hard at the motel. We met wonderful people. It was a great experience. There were ups and downs, but we managed. And like I say, we sold it 10 years ago, and extremely happy about that. Now we have our freedom. We can go for ice cream, we can go for a walk. He holds my hand and I say, let's pretend. And it was a great experience for the kids to be brought up in that environment also. They know what work is. And it was a delight, now that we look back. Awesome plus. Awesome plus. Very ultra respectful, very interested, they want to know. They want to know all about us.
Well, we have our own cemetery in the Yarmouth Mountain Cemetery. So that part is it. We had our synagogue on William Street across from Huskelson's funeral home. We closed that down about 2006, after a 100-year anniversary. When we do have services, we used to hold them in our house. The population, like we say, is down to about 8 or 10. So it makes it difficult, and there's a law that when you have services, you should have a quorum of 10 men to make it go. It's very difficult when you only have about 4 living. You know,
so now we count the women.
Yeah.
We count.
Yeah.
We do everything, and finally we count.
Right.
People are so, so nice. And we have, and about 99% of our friends here are Gentile, because there's so few Jewish people. There's a few imports now that come in the summer, so we get together.
And there's the Southwest Nova Jewish Association. If anybody has any part of Jewish blood in them, whether they're married to a non-Jew or not, they can join the club. We go out for supper sometimes.
But they come to us, or if we have Passover, we'll have
Service,
community,
dinner.
everybody, like a potluck, and Victor will lead the service. He's like the rabbi. He's not an official rabbi, but he's very well read and certainly knows all the right things to do. I think we're very lucky to live in this country. I mean, we take so much for granted when you think of it, when you watch the news. And yet we've gone to Israel and you know what's going on in there. But you know what? We felt as safe as can be. My kids have been to Israel a number of times. I would go in a second again. Is it happening? Yes. It's happening everywhere. But here we really feel very, very safe, lucky. Never think of danger, ever. So we have a lot to be grateful for.
Not everyone's rich. That's a fallacy that's out there. That people think of Jewish people as always being rich. It's not true.
Yeah. And it bothers me a lot about that. And it's not their fault that a lot of people have never met Jewish people. And they think we're like God. I don't know. You know, like I worked somewhere for about 20 years, and somebody looked at me, one of my coworkers looked at me and said, "Why are you working?" I looked at her. "Are you for what question? Why are you working?" I said, "I'm no different than you. I have bills." But because you live in a little town, you wouldn't get that in a city. Because you live in a little town and everybody knows you're Jewish and knows your father, and or they think, you know, like...
They think they know you.
You know, they think that we have a gold mine in the back, in our backyard, and it's...
Well, it's too bad we don't.
You know, and that's, I have to say, we were invited, it was wonderful. We were invited to a church to come, it was called Peace of...
Bridge of
Peace.
Bridge of Peace or something.
So it was lovely, lovely Jewish music, and there was a rabbi there, and a priest, and minister. It was great. And then we went downstairs to a beautiful reception. This lady's looking at me. She's staring, and I finally looked at her. I said,
"What are you looking at?"
"Do you know me? Do I know you?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, what's your name?" She says to me. She didn't even answer me. She looked at me, she said, "You're Jewish."
You're one of God's chosen people. And you
And
came to our
I'm
church.
looking at her like, I'm no different than you. I'm exactly the same. Trust me. It's this fallacy. It's a shame. It really is. You know, we're normal. We're no different than anybody else. We have to work and we have to eat and we have to, you know.
Do everything else everybody else does.
Yeah. But I find living in a little town, there's this image. But then they find we're real people. Do you know what
When
I'm
they get up close and personal. When they're from a distance, they don't know. You know.
Yarmouth County Museum and Archives recognizes the support of the province of Nova Scotia. We are pleased to work in partnership with the Department of Communities, Culture and Heritage to develop and promote our cultural resources for all Nova Scotians.